claims advisor can do for you.
Welcome back to Mountain Views. If you can't tell from the picture, let me just tell you, I am incredibly excited right now because we are going to touch on some of my favorite topics: literature, sports, performance-enhancing drugs in sports, the philosophy behind professionalism, and especially medicine. I am very excited to have with me this evening the author of this very excellent new book called Morphed. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Harvey Shapiro. Sir,
hey,
nice
Terry.
to see you. Thank you for coming. So let's just start off with an overview of the book, and I want to have folks hear a little bit about your medical background, but let's start with this, where we're at in the present moment with this book and what it's all about.
Well, this book has been a 5-year project, which has just now finally come to fruition. It started back in the 2002 Olympics when I was doing drug testing, and I kind of sat there in the hours between testing wondering, how could you cheat? How could you cheat and get away with it? And went through a lot of iterations and finally came up with this concept of genetic doping, which is actually based on reality, at least laboratory reality, which interestingly enough, all the athletes are camped out at the labs trying to get the latest.
That's right.
It would be undetectable for a while, and it changes your genes, not in the sense that you pass them through to your progeny or your kids, but rather in your muscle. So they've taken a treatment for muscular dystrophy, potential treatment, and they've used that to grow muscles which are really big, and you don't have to exercise. You just get on a bike and go. One of the side effects of it is, if you're able to exercise that way, you feel younger, even if you don't look younger. And so in a sense, it has a fountain of youth property, which means you and I might want to get it and use it as we get older. That way I could
enhancing drugs, even though we're
drugs,
not athletes.
And then I could keep up with you on the bike.
Or maybe I could keep up with you.
Well, not if I'm taking that drug and you're not.
That's right. So the book came from your experience, and you were testing at the Tour de France, is that correct?
No, I was testing here at the Olympics.
Oh, for the Olympics in '02.
Yeah, yeah.
And talk a little bit about how you went from your original days of practicing medicine to getting into sort of what I would kind of think of as an applied sort of medical practice and doing that sort of thing, being a part of the Olympics.
Well, actually, I retired from teaching in a medical school where I did a lot of research in head injury, and so that relates loosely to sports and kinds of injuries the young kids can get. And came up here and I said, geez, there's going to be a lot of traffic problems with the Olympics. Am I even going to fight it or join it?
Right.
So I offered myself up to join it and was put in charge of running a doping control station at a number of different locations, one in Provo, 2 up here, and spent a 1.5 years training to do this, going around knocking on people's doors in the middle of the night saying, hi, I'm your friendly dope tester.
That's right.
They really wanted to see me. And so from that, this book grew. It had its start.
Now, I'm generally aware that the Olympics has always been kind of at the forefront of testing for performance-enhancing drugs or substances or whatever, and that professional sports, and of course we can look to baseball or football, where they're certainly still to this very day somewhat reticent to accept drug testing into their sports. Did you find that it was already a quite sophisticated process at the time that you joined, as far as within the Olympic movement?
No.
Really?
No. There's only so much money that they put into it, and if you think about how much money can be made on the other side, which is television rights, et cetera, I think that the athletes can always be a step ahead because it's underfunded, or maybe you don't want to get rid of these athletes that are breaking records, that make people watch television, that fill, you know, I mean, I always think of what one of the famous old racers, French racers, said about climbing hills, Jacques Anquetil. You remember him?
Anquetil, sure, sure.
And he said something like, well, you know, last year if they climbed this hill at 50 miles an hour, and now we take the drugs away and they're going up at 10, who is going to watch?
And it's very true.
And you got to watch television and sell advertising. Nike knows that, and so you're looking for enormously challenging and wonderful performances, and otherwise it would be dull. And if it's dull, the Olympics consumes a lot of money, right?
Yes, it does.
To run them.
Yes.
And they have this biannual party that they run every 2 years. And so I think that at least you need to consider that maybe they don't want to catch everyone. And even if they did, they would always be behind, because there's always a new development in medicine, and somehow or another it finds its way into the Olympics even sooner than you think. If you look, or into professional sport. Let's look at the drug EPO, which is, you can come and live up in Park City,
right,
and my blood goes up, my blood count goes up, which means I can carry more oxygen. And when I go back down to San Diego, where I live part of the time, at sea level, I can actually beat some people I never beat 3 weeks later. I'm flying.
You got that naturally high hematocrit.
Right, naturally high hematocrit. So when they came out with a drug to help people with renal failure, who don't make enough of this stuff, it was in sport before you knew it.
Sure.
Now you didn't have to go to Park City, you could just take a shot.
That's right.
And originally, blood doping comes from, I take my own blood and store it and put it back in. I take your blood and give it to myself. But now doping encompasses all of this. It encompasses steroids and everything else. But the original thing had to do directly with changing your blood count by actually taking blood. And the rest now is just kind of spread out to encompass that. So I think there is a very subtle, or not so subtle, disincentive to try to catch everyone.
Well, and it's always been my thought and my feeling that as long as you have big prizes, the biggest prizes, and you have human nature, there's going to be always massive incentive to cheat.
Well, who is going to turn down something that makes you feel better, makes you go faster, makes you go stronger, which is the Olympic faster, stronger, something else, I can't remember the third one. Higher. You're not going to turn that down. And if you can think of the elite athlete, but think of the athlete who has now been in 3 Olympics, never won. He knows this is his last one. Maybe Floyd Landis is a good example of that.
He kind of is.
And what has he got to lose? If he is caught, he will be told he can't come back. He's not coming back anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if he takes steroids and he wins, or some other drug, now maybe he has a contract and he doesn't have to go back to waiting tables or doing what he did between seasons.
Right.
So even the athletes at the bottom have an incentive,
right,
not just the ones at the top.
Indeed. And the thing that occurs to me that is sort of endlessly fascinating about it is that all of this conversation is focused on the fact that we're looking at the winners. We're testing the winners. And for example, as we discussed in the Tour de France, really there's as much, if not more, incentive and rule-breaking use of drugs at the back of the pack, as it were, right, because those guys every single year face going back to Belgium to paint cars instead of making $200,000 or $225,000 a year, bringing water bottles up to the stars in the front.
You fall off the back of the pack, you're gone.
And you're never going to get tested in the back of the pack.
Well, they'll get, no. There's the random testing. You can get caught. You can occasionally get caught. But
again, what's my downside?
The incentive is you can't stay with the pack if you don't do it. The whole thing has been moved up.
Yes, yes.
Moved up one.
Well, we should have apportioned to half an hour, because this is certainly a topic that is, I hate to say near and dear, because that's kind of an odd way to put it, but...
There's one point I want to leave you with.
Yes.
We copy them, and they copy us. Meaning, our society is full of all kinds of performance-enhancing things,
yes,
and we take it. That makes it such that when we look at Barry Bonds, hit his last home run, and do this, everybody who had a ticket in that ballpark, and they were people who went all the time, knew that Barry Bonds was doping.
Everybody.
And he was their hero. And vice versa, meaning that we all use stuff, the lightest bike, the best tennis racket. You want to climb a hill with me? You get a certain bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that makes us accepting of it, and back and forth.
No question.
And so that's why it keeps going. There's no incentive really to shut it off.
No question about it. So tell folks about, you've got a book signing coming up, is that correct?
No, we had the signing coming up. Now I'm going to do one in San Diego.
Oh, very good.
And we had a lot of folks turn up, and they asked some great questions. I thought I was going to talk about this is what it's going to be, and the questions made it go. So that's the best format that I can possibly think of.
Excellent, excellent. And tell folks where they can get the book.
They can get the book at Amazon.com, and they can get it at ebook, the print book at Amazon.com, and an ebook at Amazon, Kindle, and a number of the other ones like Barnes & Nobles and the Pop Sony readers. It'll be at all on those sites.
Excellent. Well, I've got my copy, and I'm
You
excited
do.
about that. But you folks out there, get your copy at all of the above locations. The book is Morphed. The author is Harvey Shapiro, MD, a fantastic, brilliant guy, and I just know that this is going to be a great read. I can't wait to get into it, and I hope that you will get out there online and find your copy or your Kindle copy as well and enjoy it. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back after this.